Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Question Answered. Today's question actually is an AutoCAD question. I actually had a student that was trying to take one of the blocks that comes in the Design Center library, and they were wanting to actually change it so that it matched what they were going to be putting into a project, and so that it had the accurate dimensions. And they kept having trouble trying to actually manipulate or stretch the block so that it worked with what they were trying to do. So I wanted to do a quick tutorial when it comes to modifying blocks so that people can get an idea of what you should always try to do when editing those. For this, I actually pulled up a sink. The sink right now is a 30-inch sink, and she wanted to put in a 33-inch sink into her project. So we needed to actually stretch this sink or by widthwise so that it would fit into the space how it was actually going to be. So one of the first things I wanted to make sure that she did was I wanted to make sure that she set up her guides first. So this sink is a 33-inch by 19-inch sink. So what I want to do first is I want to make sure that I put the lines in, my guidelines in. So I'm going to I started with the line tool, and it looks like my midpoint is not on, so I'm going to make sure I have that turned on. And I'm going to draw a line that's midway down, and then I'm going to offset this line off on both sides. Like I said, this is a 33-inch sink, so I want to do half one way, half the other in this particular case. That would be 16.5 inches one way, 16.5 the other. So I'm going to type in my 16.5 inches for my offset distance. And I clicked O, enter, just in case you're wondering, well, how'd you get the offset so fast? Then I'm going to go ahead and place those lines in so I have that information in as well. The other thing I'm going to make sure that I do is I'm going to do a line enter again, and I'm going to actually do a 19-inch line if this is not already. Actually, I have not measured the sink the other way to see if it is, but I'm going to put my line in. I'm going to do an offset. I'm going to type in 19 inches, and I'm going to also offset that line in. So it also looks like I'm going to have to take this sink up. So the next thing I want to do with the sink is I'm going to actually click this sink, and I need to explode it. It's the only way I'm going to be able to actually manipulate the block. And I always do this. I never hardly draw something from scratch if there's something in there that's similar that I can just take and modify from, and then just do a save as. So I'm going to click on the block. I'm going to type in explode, or at least I'm going to start it. A lot of times it goes ahead and finishes it for you. All I have to do is just hit enter, because that's what you want. Now, here is the thought process. When you're going to stretch this thing out, not only are you going to pull these things to the side, but 9 times out of 10, this distance is probably going to stay the same, which means that your interior sink is what's actually getting stretched. Not only that, when you're stretching that, you're probably also going to move your drains back to a mid point. So there's a few more guides that I'm going to actually put in just to make sure that this is what it is doing what it needs to do. But first, I'm going to stretch it. So the thinking is that this line is going to move to this line, but not only that, this has to stretch. And if this stretches, these two arcs, the connecting arcs, have to stretch too. With that being said, the way the stretch tool works is it's going to move any grip that is inside of the window that I create. So in other words, just pay attention to this. I'm going to go down to this bottom right corner of the block. I'm going to click, and I'm going to select and I'm going to use the fence mode, or excuse me, the crossing mode for my selection tool. And I'm going to make sure that the grips that go along to the items that I'm going to stretch are all within the within that selection box. So that then means that I had to make sure that this grip was in, this grip was all the way in, and that these two grips were all the way in. So what's essentially going to happen is when I go to stretch this segment of these two lines is what's going to actually stretch. So now I'm going to type in the word stretch, and I could have typed in stretch first too. It really doesn't matter at this point. But I'm typing the word stretch, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click, and I'm going to pull those over. Now, here's something that's interesting that I didn't do, as you can see, which then also is actually causing some issues. So I'm going to actually go back so you can see what I did. I started from this point here. Because I didn't include this grip into this crossing window, or crossing selection, it didn't move. So I just have to make sure when I'm doing this, I could have done one of two things. I could have gone ahead, done the selection window again, and then just simply did a shift and took these out. It took that line out of it. Or I would have made sure that I was down here past this grip as well. So now I'm going to stretch this again. So now that I have the proper selection there, and I'm going to click where these two meet, and I'm just going to move it over to that line. I'm going to do the same exact thing on this side. So once again, I'm going to use my crossing method. I'm going to make sure that I get everything inside of the fence that I need. I'm going to type in stretch. I could have also just done a right click and do similar, but you know, it all just depends on how fast you are. So I've now made that adjustment. I need to also make the adjustment going this way as well. So once again, I'm going to grab these, make sure all these grips that are affected by this thing is moving. I'm going to do a shift and not actually include my white lines, because remember, I'll cause some problems. These wouldn't have been affected, but this one would have. I'm going to stretch this thing again, and I'm going to take this corner and take it up to the white line as well. So there we go. So there's that adjustment. But remember, I said that I probably need to move the drains also. So just a quick tip here. I'm going to do a line command, and there's many ways I could have done this as well. And I'm going to draw in two lines, or two lines. Do the right click, repeat line command. Do this one on this side. I'm going to then take my circle here, and I'm going to grab the center line, because you can move something based off of the base point of the center line of the circle, because usually that's where the base point is on the circle. Except this was an arc, so make sure you get them both. Once again, they both have the same base point, so I can actually grab this center point of that as well and take it and move it over to this line. And I now have an accurate sync for what I'm going to be placing into my project. So now I'm just going to go back through, delete all my construction lines out. I could have drawn those lines on maybe a voided layer so that you didn't see them and then just kept them on there, but you know, it doesn't hurt to clean this up. The very last thing you need to make sure that you do is select all of your items again. That is part of the block. Make sure you type in the word block as if you're going to create a new one. Your block definition box is going to come up. You're going to rename this thing what it actually is. I always like to be specific when I'm naming my blocks, because you need to make sure you may have like 50,000 different sinks in your model. So you just want to be a little bit more accurate when it comes to the naming. So I'm going to call it a sink because that's what it is. And then I'm going, so that's its category, if you will. And then I'm going to start to explain or what it actually is. So it's a DBL, a double, and it's 33 IN, or inches, because remember, you can't use any type of symbols or inch symbols, at least in this, because this is a Windows naming convention. So there it is. So I've created sink double 33 inches. I also want to make sure that I tell it to specify my base point on screen. If you do not, it defaults to 0, 0, 0. 0, 0, 0 could be 50,000 feet away from where you are. And nothing is more annoying than trying to move a block and not having the base point to help you move it with, and trying to figure out where its base point is, and it's way off the screen somewhere. So make sure you click on base point, make sure you click on specify on screen. Everything else actually is fine. If you want it to scale uniformly, that's up to you. It probably is a good idea in this particular case so that you're not messing with it. You could also lock it down where it's not allowed to be scaled or exploded at all, and it only has to be this 33-inch sink. That's up to you. However, you know, why limit what you can do with this block. That's more for when someone is pulling in a proprietary type item and you don't want someone manipulating your model to something that you have that is actually going towards an actual product that you have. That's probably the only time you want to do something like that. So I'm going to convert it to a block. I've named it, got to put get a little goofy on things like this, put my capital D on there. Going to tell it okay. It's now going to ask me, well, where do you want to put your base point? A lot of times you want to put that base point where this thing is going to be placed. Sometimes that's the midpoint right above where the faucet is. Sometimes it's in a corner. That's really up to you and how you install your items in. I'm going to put it at the midpoint above the faucet, and there it is. So now if I were to click on this, here's my base point. It's now the size that I wanted. I can move it around, do everything I want, and it also is living inside of my block library for this file. So that's that simple. If you have any questions on how I did this, or you want me to show you how to do it on another type of item, I can. Just either email me your questions at brighteideas@gmail.com, brighteideas@gmail.com, or you can leave me a comment in the comment sections below asking me a question, or sending me questions either through Facebook or LinkedIn or any other source that you see for Bright Ideas. And also don't forget to hit the subscribe button, so that if you see any other questions come up in the future that you were also interested in, you would be able to see those updates. Thanks again, everybody.